Of course, since I've been involved with the electric universe for more than 8 years now, which seems astonishing to me, I've seen a lot of things change. I've seen a lot of people come and a lot of people go, and a lot of people stick around. I've seen ideas develop. I've seen old ideas grow into something that was never expected. I've seen new ideas appear that seem to challenge other well-established thinking in the electric universe community, and people are not afraid to express that. It all probably started when I was 7, when my father explained to me what a light year was. And that whole idea that you could calculate distance based on time. As a matter of fact, the calculation of the distance in a light year in miles was something I used to perform over and over again. I would get the length of the light year, 5,865,656,000,000 miles. One of the first ideas about numbers that ever came to me all those years ago. So that sparked my interest in almost all fields of science, not just mathematics, but mostly what we would call the natural sciences. I was really into hands-on experience and what I could actually conceive through my senses. So I was given microscopes for my birthday and telescopes and other devices that I could use to explore the natural world. And I'm grateful even to this day that my parents, at least my father especially, was able to recognize that interest in me and nurture it. So eventually that led me to the discovery of Immanuel Velikovsky. Worlds in Collision was given to me by a botany professor that I knew at the University of California, Riverside. I used to help him with his experiments. He was doing an investigation into a viral cancer of the tobacco plant and doing sections and this and that and the other so he could look at them through an electron microscope. It was interesting being in the lab with him and seeing an electron microscope and actually being able to experience what scientific research was all about when I was a teenager. Immanuel Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, then, of course, Earth in Upheaval, and the idea that even the very stones themselves cry out, that you can look at various formations and features around the world and see that something happened to Earth that is not the long, slow gradualism that conventional geology teaches. Earth is the scene of tremendous devastation. It's been carved up like a pumpkin. You've got 30,000-foot mountain ranges. If you consider Mauna Loa, for example, that's a 35,000-foot mountain in the Pacific Ocean. 29,000-foot Mount Everest, and then you have the Challenger Deep at 35,000 feet below the surface of the ocean. These are amazing structures that conventional geology can't adequately explain. Things that I would call fatal flaws in the theory that I've detailed in several pictures of the day. As far as I'm concerned, Immanuel Velikovsky's research, founded, of course, on people who came before him, like Ignatius Donnelly and his concept of the great comet appearing in the sky and virtually devastating Earth. Those two ideas I considered to be breakthrough concepts in my thinking, that something other than conventional cosmogony was at work in the solar system and that I have not been exposed to or had not been exposed to up until that point. So once that happened, once that door opened, of course, that gave me insight into an entirely new dimension of thinking about things like the electric sun. When I read Ralph Juergens' article on the electric sun in Velikovsky Reconsidered, published by Ponce, I was amazed that thermonuclear theory was was so inadequate when it came to the sun. The corona, people just gloss over the problem of the corona, it being 2 million degrees hotter than the photosphere or the surface of the sun. Nothing, even still, has been suggested as an adequate explanation. Over time, once the internet came into things, back in 1992 when I first got online, before there were such things as search engines, I started looking for information about Immanuel Velikovsky because I knew that a lot of his stuff had not been published in print and there must be an archive of it somewhere. I thought that with this new emerging technology of the internet that somebody would put a database up someplace with Velikovsky's data. It wasn't until a few years later that I discovered the Velikovsky archive. And indeed, Wal Thornhill had a CD-ROM available. I don't know if people remember CD-ROMs, but he had a CD-ROM available called The Electric Universe. So I immediately purchased that in 1998 and began a long correspondence with Wal at that point. Then, as I had begun writing to Dave Talbott as well as Wal Thornhill, and in fact, the three of us had correspondence about crater chains on the moon and other formations that were very anomalous as far as the solar system was concerned. In fact, I think at around that time in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, all of us were starting to get involved in ideas about the anomalies in the solar system. And Velikovsky and what we're actually seeing as new spacecraft were being launched farther and farther into space and seeing with greater and greater resolution, suddenly confirmation seemed to be everywhere.